There is a solution for that is sponsored by VARC Solutions. VARC Solutions helps small businesses succeed by delivering expert QuickBooks bookkeeping, consulting, quick-base development, and integrated solutions. If you own a small to medium-sized business that uses QuickBooks or QuickBase, the experts at VARC Solutions can help. In business since 1999, with people who care and the knowledge and experience to solve your toughest problems. Visit varcsolutions.com for all your QuickBooks needs. Welcome back to another edition of There's a Solution for That, where we help small businesses succeed by discussing challenging business problems and best-in-class solutions. All right, welcome back, everybody, to There's a Solution for That. We've got another great show for you today. We have got the co-founder of 415 Digital, Borja Kwan, who is here to talk all things digital marketing and really just kind of like the experience, the journey, all the things that they do and how they solve the problem of digital marketing for clients. So, Borja, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
So tell us just a little bit about you and the company.
Yeah. As you mentioned, I co-founded a digital marketing agency. We are 9 years old. We are on track to manage almost $300 million in 2025 in advertising spend across Google, Meta, LinkedIn, Microsoft Bing, TikTok, and a few other platforms. But those are the primary ad platforms that we're buying media on behalf of our clients for. And really, the problem that we solve for clients is really helping them scale through digital marketing, specifically using those platforms and really understanding how to utilize those platforms to help businesses scale cost effectively.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm going to definitely have questions about like trends, what's working, what's not working, all those types of things. But, one of the things I like to ask people, especially who's a founder, owner, president of a business is how did you get into that? So, people don't just wake up one day and say, I guess I'm going to start a marketing company unless they do. So tell me how you got into this.
No, that was not the track for me. My mother, my father, they were not agency owners or founders. I didn't kind of uh, grow up in the family business, so to speak. But for me, it really wasn't that interesting of a story. I initially was interested in hospitality. I'd worked in hotels during high school summers and even throughout college summers. Um, and I got some exposure to kind of what it was to work at a hotel and be part of the hospitality industry and all facets of really hospitality. And my third year in college, I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain, and it was there that I continued down that track and did an internship at the Hotel Ritz in Madrid for the full year. And again, learned a lot about hotel management and every aspect of it, from housekeeping to food and beverage, front desk, operations, you name it. And again, I was very interested in ultimately the goal for me was to become a general manager of a five-star property. So that was really what my training was, serving the customer, problem solving, working in what was a very demanding industry in terms of hours and just, you're
Oh
always
yeah.
sort of client facing and you learn a lot. And it's a very good experience that I had doing that. But when I graduated from college, I ended up getting sort of connected to a recruiter, and that recruiter contacted me. This is back in 1998, many years ago. And they said, "Hey, we have a job here that we think you match well for at an internet startup in Boston, Massachusetts, where I was living and I'd grown up and gone to college." And I ended up interviewing at that internet startup. Um, that was founded by two brothers who both attended Harvard, and one of them had an impressive track record of business, selling a company or two before this one. And I interviewed for a job that I ended up not getting. In fact, I interviewed and I didn't think I did very well, frankly. And uh, and didn't feel like that job was a good match for me. I felt like I was not experienced enough, frankly.
Right.
And so I left, went home. The following day, the recruiter called me and said, "Hey, you didn't get that job, but the employer asked me to call you because they have another job that they think you might match well for that is
Hmm.
junior to that position." And I ended up going back and getting that job, and that job turned into 8 years with that
Wow.
company through a lot of change. We went public during the IPO heyday, and then we were part of the dot bomb. We weren't as affected, but a lot of the clients that we actually work with were affected. A lot of those companies went out of business
Yeah.
and didn't survive. And then we expanded internationally. We were acquired by a larger media entity. That media entity acquired our largest competitor. We merged the two brands. So I was with that company through an immense amount of change.
Wow.
Um,
Tons
and,
of it.
and and it was a great professional experience for me. I learned a lot, met a lot of great people along the way, made money, was part of an IPO. So overall, it was really good. And then I ended up continuing in digital marketing and moving to the West Coast, where I've been for the last many years. And eventually met my business partner working for a company as part of their growth team, managing a budget of about 100 million in ad spend. And it was there that we met and overlapped. And after I left that company, he approached me with the idea of starting this agency. And so here we are today, 9 years later. So I think the short answer to your question is it was really a culmination of just having been in digital marketing for many years and learning a lot about the different sides of the business, both the buy and sell side, that
Hmm.
eventually led me to start my own company.
Well, that's awesome. Well, the whole guideline, like, don't start a job and or don't start a company unless you've got some experience in the industry. It sounds like you had the experience growing up, so to speak, through those different roles and companies and all. I mean, gosh, all the transitions. I'm sure that must have been part of that. So that's an amazing story. Um, it's interesting. You mentioned at the very beginning, the background and the experience with like hotels. Like I know back in the day, when I was graduating, I graduated from Texas Tech in Lubbock, Texas. Get your guns up, and there was a lot of people. They had a really really big um, hotel restaurant institutional management, I guess, is the meat degree. And all of those folks were trying to go out and get jobs at hotels. And I just remember actually knew of several of them that were in that space. And it was yeah, it was a very hard life, hard job. Your you've got to speak Spanish. If you don't know how to speak Spanish, that's a problem, right? You
Mhm.
need to be able to deal with everything from like superstar guests to cleaning crews to everybody in between, and there's no rest. And oh my God, just night crews and all that other stuff. So I can imagine you learned a lot about how to take care of people, and cater to people's needs, because when you got that many people coming through a hotel all the time, I mean, there's just literally no way around, figuring out how to make people happy. Um, so here we are now. We fast forward 10 plus 15 years from that. Now you're in digital marketing. So how have you bridged the gap between those two? Like, in other words, have you learned anything from those prior experiences in hotels that have now been applied to? I'm sure the stuff you do hasn't is cross industry, cross market. Just how are some of those experiences shaped what you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, I always look back on my jobs, restaurant, hotel, selling golf balls very early before I had a permit to work. Um, as you know, experiences that I learned from, and so a lot of the stuff that I learned specifically within the hotel management track was all valuable to what I do now, because even though I was younger, I still learned a lot. I learned how to deal with people and
Mm-hmm.
what more important skill set is there. then the ability to deal and work with people, right? Which includes the ability to communicate with people.
Right.
Uh, so like regardless of what job you have, what profession, the ability to work with people, the ability to problem solve, the ability to communicate, the ability to anticipate. All of these things are skills that I acquired working in the hotel industry, but also the standard of service that I was trained to understand as part of the Ritz was really important, right? Because their standards are very high. The bar that they set for customer experience is very high. How to service a customer, how to make sure when I did the housekeeping, my job in housekeeping at the Ritz was after they had finished cleaning the room, I would be the one to check off that this room was ready for that guest to arrive. So I would look at everything, right? I'd even pull the plug from the sink up to make sure that there was no hair. There was all these little things that I would do to make sure that we were crossing our T's, dotting our I's, that this would be a perfect room for whoever was about to come in there.
Yeah.
So like all of these things that translate into what I do today, which is professional services. And yes, there are things and nuances that are different about digital marketing than hotel management. But at the end of the day, we're dealing with customers
Yeah.
at the highest level, and we're trying to create good experiences for our customers. And how do we do that? Maybe a little bit differently because there are different tasks that we do as part of our job to create those experiences. But no matter what, we have to deliver results for our customers in digital marketing, and we needed to at the Ritz. And results at the Ritz were that customer, that guest had a good experience, right? We provided a good experience to them, whether it was in the restaurant, it was in the room, it was at the spa, it was at the front desk, whatever it is, it's like creating those good experiences. So, I mean, I think all of those experiences that I gained over the years working taught me a lot that then contributed to what I do today.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, and when I think of digital marketing, I'm curious if you agree with this or if you have an alternative opinion. But when I think of digital marketing, I think of that as a kind of like a language all of its own, right? And so you're learning how to communicate in one way, right? But
Mhm.
communicating via digital marketing is is I mean, I guess in some ways it's the same, but there's also a nuance to it, right? To being effective at capturing people's attention, um, causing those emotional reactions in people that makes them want to pick up the phone and call or respond to an ad. So, kind of tell us a little bit more about those kind of things.
Yeah, there's two types of things that we're talking about here. One is, to me, how we interact with our customer, meaning I'm an agency owner and I have clients that come to me for the services that I provide, right? So then how do we manage those relationships? How do we establish those relationships? How do we deepen those relationships? And that's a lot through our team that's working with our customers and providing value both tactically and strategically, right? And so our customers come to us and they pay us ultimately for driving growth. So no matter how much they like us, right? No matter how much they enjoy talking to us every week or getting together and having lunch or coffee or a meeting for a quarterly business review, we need to drive results, and results in what in our business is typically sales or pipeline, let's call it, right? So
Mhm.
if you're e-commerce, they need to sell more books, more furniture, more health equipment, whatever it is that that business is selling. We need to drive more sales through digital marketing, right? If you're a B2B company, you're trying to create more sales pipeline of qualified prospects, right? For the services that you provide, right? So that is kind of one side of the business, which is we have to be really good at what we do, right? Technically, in order to drive results. But also you have to be good at the relationship side of this business because it's not easy. And through that relationship, you're going to have a series of ups and downs, right? It's not
Mhm.
always going to be record breaking months. So how do we establish a relationship with our customers so that we can work through those difficult times? So there's that side of the business, and then there's the other side, which you were talking about, which is when you are a customer of ours, the customer's goal is for consumers to engage in the ads that they put out there.
Hmm.
How do we get that to happen, right? And it is a lot about messaging. It's brand, it's messaging, it's what is the offer, how does the ad look, right? And we spend a lot of time testing, right? Testing different
Yeah.
iterations of ads, right? Static ads and motion ads. That's, videos, you see video ads out there, or just static ads. There's a cadence to what we do around creative testing to support the social media marketing campaigns, i.e., and this is really applicable to Facebook or TikTok, Instagram, right? Google Display, YouTube. Those are the channels where you're doing a lot of marketing, and it's what we call sort of more social media marketing, where the ads
Yeah.
are really critical to the success of the campaign.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm curious about a few things related to what you just said, which is what are some of the trends that you're seeing in the space? Because obviously things are moving pretty quickly. Some things stay the same, but there's also just a lot of the tools and processes and techniques that are continuing to evolve. We've seen it, we've experienced it, not just in our industry, but we've seen it all over the place. And I'm curious, everybody's talking about AI these days, and how, not just as an agency, how you guys might be using AI to create or produce work, right? But like, are you seeing AI as an example, as another TikTok, another Facebook, another LinkedIn, and another channel that people can find people with?
Yeah, I mean, AI is obviously a very uh, in trend thing, right? You can't escape it, right? So our view as an agency is really to embrace AI uh, as something that is additive, not subtractive, and not intended to displace or replace you as an employee, but instead to allow you to power with AI, or partner with AI, not power, partner with AI to become more efficient, to drive more value for the customer, to create better outputs, right, or outcomes. So yes, we are leveraging AI. There are a lot of generative AI tools like ChatGPT or Sora that are being used to write, ad copy, generate creative, create landing pages at scale. So there's a lot of those tools that we're using on a daily basis that are supportive of our rules, right? And that our team is using, and it allows them to be not only better but really more efficient, right? And so it's in particular when it comes to, I would say, what we do, it's around, I would say, content, and it's around ad creation and landing page creation. That's where a lot of the AI tools the team is leveraging. But again, we think it's more additive,
Yeah.
and platforms like Meta, Google, and Amazon are increasingly automating campaign management via AI. So there's a lot of these platforms that are obviously adopting it, and investing in AI, and hiring the best people in the world that are strong in this area to advance them. So yeah, I think that's, definitely a big trend is AI. Um, and then also, like, I would say something else that comes to mind is the rise of short form video. So like, as you know,
Hmm.
people's attention span is not very long, but I think a lot of short term form video is very popular, in particular around TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts, and
Yeah.
that's what's dominating a lot of user engagement.
Right.
So yeah, and then a lot of the brands we're working with too, they're investing in um, a lot of what I would call more native style videos that are more authentic and user generated, not high
Yeah.
production value, but
Right.
it's
Right.
effective, right? So those are some of the things that we're seeing a lot of people adopt.
That's excellent. Well, I know that a lot of times that stuff depends on, obviously, who you're marketing to, where they happen to be, like where you're trying to get them. Whether they're on their phone all the time or sitting in front of a computer. I know that can that can make a big difference. Um, One of the things that I just remember years back when people were saying, "Oh, do this, don't do that." Everything's got to be this for nobody's going to watch an hour video. It has to be short. There's other people that are like, well, short's okay, but it needs to be long. It's like there's always these conflicting opinions. And the way
Yeah.
I look at that is like, okay, if I was going to go on a run, okay, and I want to make that time not only physically productive but mentally productive, my choices are I can listen to music for 30 minutes. I could listen to a podcast for 30 minutes. I could listen to an audiobook for 30 minutes. I'm not going to listen to a 5-minute video for 30 minutes. So place, time, and where people are at in that type of thing makes a difference. So in my opinion, it seems like there is a time and a place for long form. There's a time and a place for short form. I mean, this podcast, just as an example, I think the shortest one we've ever done is probably like 10 minutes.
Yep.
And so, we're not trying to find people that are, running from the car to the grocery store, or getting from the car to the grocery store and hoping to watch our video. We're looking for people that are, have a little bit of time doing something else. So I don't know. It's just kind of a
Yeah.
curious thing.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. And so what you're saying is basically it's not one or the other. It's you have
Yeah.
to have diversification of the types of content you put out there, right?
Yeah.
Some is long form, some is short form. I agree.
Yeah.
Like I can listen to a podcast for an hour and a half, right? Because it's usually when I'm in bed and I'm just listening to something and I'm interested in just kind of like have hearing the conversation, or if I'm on a long car ride. I'll do that, right? So I think if I'm, on my phone and I'm just like killing time for while I'm barbecuing, for example, maybe I'll watch
Yeah.
something that's a bit more short form. So I
Yeah.
think it's never for me one or the other. What we typically say to our customers is you have to know your consumers are engaging with your content during different times of the day. They have different behaviors. It's a different device that they're interacting with. So you have to have diversity with the way in which you're communicating your message to consumers and the
Yeah.
format in which you're communicating.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember a couple months ago, I was doing the same thing that you were talking about at times, just like flipping through YouTubes and stuff like that. And of course, Joe Rogan, he's got a podcast, and I don't think he does podcasts that are less than an hour. Okay, but I
No.
just remember like doing a string of watching a string of Joe Rogan podcasts where it was like David Goggins for 2.5 hours. There was Elon Musk for like 3 hours. It's like, and I'm like hitting pause and watching part two the next day. So it's just kind of fun.
Well, what's interesting about that statement, I'll quickly get this out, is
Yeah.
initially Joe Rogan said this on a podcast recently where I listened to it, where he said initially when he came out with his podcast in the beginning, one of his best friends said, "You need to condense this to like 30 minutes." And he pushed against it. He said, if someone doesn't want to listen to this for an hour and a half or 2 hours, I don't want them to listen. He was very committed to that and
Yeah.
ended up,
Yeah.
paying off for him because he was right. Like there was a lot of people that are willing to sit there and listen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, good stuff. Well, so I know, I mean, obviously there's a lot of companies out there that do marketing. And so I'm curious, just from your own perspective, what makes you guys kind of like unique and special? And maybe how is your business model different than maybe how everybody else is doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think our business model is maybe similar, if not the same as other agencies. We typically gauge with customers and provide a statement of work, and we charge them based on the amount of media that we manage is tied to a percentage. So we
Mm-hmm.
get paid a percentage of how much media we manage, and it varies. The higher the amount, the lower the percentage, or they pay us a fixed retainer. So that's kind of the business model, the economics, and it's very standard across agencies.
Yeah.
I would say how we're different is really in the service and the experience that customers get. We have a lot of experience doing what we do. So the folks that we hire, depending on the level, it varies, but assuming it's one of the senior levels, we are very sort of thoughtful when we recruit people, and we really want them to be a good match for us, both sort of professionally, culturally. Um, and so when you work with us, you're getting someone who is really competent. We don't assign a junior person, which a lot of folks in our industry, unfortunately, do excellent on the sales, but then when it's time to deliver the service, a lot of the clients that we've worked with over the years have said we get someone that doesn't have a lot of experience, right?
Hmm.
So one of the things we do is we assemble a team, and that team is led by a very senior media professional that will be the leader and drive the strategy for your business. And I think a big point of differentiation is really in the fact that we bring in a customer and we are obsessive over retaining them. Our net promoter scores are always very high. Our average sort of retention rates are well above industry standard at about 32 months, which is good in our business.
Yeah.
And the reason we're obsessive over retention is because we don't have a huge sales pipeline at any given time. Our
Yeah.
business has been built on referrals and word of mouth. And so for us, our model is in turn and burn. We kind of bring in a customer, we over invest resources, we really care deeply about the success of our partners. And we take failure personally. So for us, it's like we are available all the time. We're working very hard to drive results. We're very skilled at the platforms that we're buying on. So like I think those things translate into better business outcomes, and the clients that we work with see that in the bottom line in their business, and they're generating more sales or building up a bigger pipeline of sales prospects. And that ultimately matters a lot to them. And that's what we're focused on, is really driving growth. And there's nowhere to hide when you're sort of measured numerically.
Yeah, oh,
Business
yeah,
we're in.
for sure, for sure. Well, that brings up two questions that I'm curious to if you can kind of like expand on a little bit. So one is in terms of like the work that you guys do, but then the other is kind of like some of the customers that you may be trying to help. Um, like one of the things that I've seen is, 20 years ago it wasn't as important as it is today, but like what do they call that? Social proof, right? Things like Google, Yelp, rating, Trust Index, all these different companies that are helping, have customers rate businesses, et cetera. And so, what do you do when you've got a company that maybe has some pretty negative reviews out there, where you're trying to counteract that with the positive story, that the impact that company is making? Like, have you dealt with that at all, trying to help mitigate a relationship, or maybe a negative review kind of scenario?
We have. It doesn't, I mean, I would say every client that we've worked with um, is going to experience some customer that's unhappy, right? It's going back to hospitality is, you know, you know, you can only accomplish the 99%. There's no such thing as 100% of customers being happy, right? Now, I would say most of the clients we work with as part of the um, evaluation on the front end of the sales cycle, if you will, we're definitely looking for specific criteria. We wouldn't work with a company that had a bad reputation overall, because we know that that would be very difficult for us to make successful, right?
Hmm.
Like, we're not in the business of turning your brand around reputationally. That's not what we're doing, because that's not the core business model. Our core business model is leveraging the ad platforms to create more sales for your business. And a prerequisite of that is having a business that pays attention to the important things, which is obviously brand reputation and um, doing good by the customer and creating a product or service that brings value. So we're not miracle workers, but we're not saying that every business that we work with has to be a layup, but generally speaking, we're not bringing on a customer that has a lot of negativity around them press
Right.
wise. Now, we have worked with customers where we're evaluating or just like auditing their some of their public profiles, where they'll get a negative review or a review that doesn't even really isn't relevant, someone accidentally left a review or something, and we'll sort of work with them to say, hey, reach out to this customer and ask them if they would reconsider writing this review and maybe give them an opportunity to make it right or something. So
Right.
we're kind of looking out for them in the rare instances where they get a negative review. But at the end of the day, we don't see that very much. And it's mostly like 95% good, maybe 5% not good. But even myself as an Airbnb owner, I look at the 150 reviews I have, and there's a couple in there that are not positive. But I think if an educated consumer looks at it, they go, I know that there's never a situation where you're going to get 100% good reviews. And if you have a 90% plus rating, that's good enough.
Right. Yeah. Now that's good stuff. Well, so the second part of my question, um, so like especially in your industry, I'm just curious what you guys have seen. How long does it take from beginning of engagement to where you guys are starting to see some actual positive results for your client? And then part two of that question is, I'm sure because you just talked about it, every client's different. Some you're going to have more wins and less wins. What do you do with a client that you've been working with for 2, 3, 4 months, and maybe you're not seeing the results that you were hoping for and the client was hoping for? And how do you course correct in that scenario? Like, what do you find are some of the reasons why this may work or may not work?
Yeah, and we usually are able to see signals within 3 to 4 weeks, right? You're starting to, collect data. We're investing a little bit more into some of these platforms. I mean, up front, we're very clear on what the budget goals are. What are the platforms that we want to invest in that most um, accurately reflect the target audience that they want to reach, right?
Mhm.
So it depends on the business and who they're trying to reach. But then once we have that defined and we have a good plan on who do we want to target, and then what are the platforms that lend most to that audience demographic, then we'll basically start investing, and in a couple weeks we'll start having some data. Okay, hey, we've seen this many engagements, this is how many people have filled out the form, your sales team called up on this lead, and it sounds like it's a real prospect. So we, through the data that we have access to plus feedback from the client, we'll quickly start getting a feel for how things are looking. And if after 3 or 4 months we're not getting the desired outcomes that we had all aspired for, I always say, like, the you know the way to work through that is through excellent communication and a lot of transparency, right? So as long as along the way we're meeting and speaking regularly, that there's clear understanding of what the goals and objectives are, there's a clear understanding on what our plan is, and that we're both aligned that that is the most sound plan. We're working towards that. We're reporting on it. We're sharing feedback. If after 3 or 4 months things aren't working, we will come to the table and say, okay, what have we tested? Why hasn't it worked? What else could we be testing, right? Is it time for us to pull the ripcord, or do we still have more options here at our disposal to test? Because oftentimes people sort of prematurely make decisions without really having enough statistically significant data. So for us, it's, hey, we're going to optimize things. Let's test new creative. What are new offers? What are some of the things we can do to get people to sort of make the move? So it's a lot of communication. And sometimes, frankly, when things don't work, it's just could be a function of they're not getting us what we need. We rely on the client, and sometimes they can block us, right?
Mm,
They're not doing what is needed for us to be able to move things forward. And we don't control everything in this process, but
yeah.
we try to be excellent at the areas we can control. So usually when an engagement is sort of breaking apart in month 4, it's it's all about like communication, it's keeping people accountable, it's being transparent with what we've done and what our plan is moving forward, and it really makes things a lot easier. And so if at the end of the day something doesn't work, it just doesn't work. Like,
Yeah.
maybe this isn't the right channel, right, for that type of product. Um, and we agree to kind of just move in different directions.
Okay, good stuff. Well, let me ask you this, just, because I think there's companies out there, businesses out there that are like, hey, I need someone like you. I'm going to go hire you. And of course, there's a whole bunch of other ones that are like, I'm just going to do it myself. And so, speaking to like the do-it-yourselfer that may be listening, like, what are some, maybe like, what's one of your biggest, best tips on helping someone that's trying to make it more impact through their marketing?
Yeah. First thing I would say is align or hire someone who's competent if you can, right? I think oftentimes a lot of business owners start a business and they think they're digital marketing professionals and they're not. And they try to do that instead of focusing on the things that they're really good at that make
Right.
greatest impact to the business. So I always say focus on your strengths and outsource what you are not strong at, because that's going to create faster results than you trying to become a digital marketing expert, right? Now, if you don't have the money and you want to sort of try things on your own, that's fine. But there's a lot of free content out there that you can access, right? Classes, and there's some paid and there's some free that allow you to learn some of the basics. But as someone who's getting into it and is going to launch a campaign, well, the first thing I would say to you, in terms of my advice, is make sure that you have the most um, make sure you have the tracking infrastructure implemented in order to support your campaigns, because in business you can't manage what you can't measure. So
Hmm.
before you invest money in a Google campaign, make sure you have implemented the tracking infrastructure needed that will allow you to report on that activity. A lot of times people overlook that. They don't have the correct tracking in place. It's not tracking the right event or the
Right.
right events, and then they don't really know what the outcomes are of these campaigns, because it's not really showing them in a reporting way. So it's
I
always
love
like
that.
invest in the tracking so that when you do spend, whether it's $100 or $1 million, you're able to report on the metrics that matter to you and determine the profitability or lack thereof of that campaign.
I love that because, yeah, it's just like we can go out and spend money, but if we don't even know if it's working or not, I mean, you can say, if the phone's ringing, you kind of know, right? If the emails are coming in, you kind of know. But if you don't have the tracking, if you're not, or if you're not looking at it, or if you don't know where to look, yeah, you're just kind of shotgun approach, and you know, intuition and gut is great, but having a report that says this is exactly what happened is certainly a lot better. Especially, I think, when you start getting into things like A/B testing and let's try these two different campaigns side by side and see which one actually works better. That's really, really hard to do if you're not tracking it. So, great suggestion. Appreciate that. So, as we conclude our webinar and podcast here today, is, if somebody wanted to reach out to you guys to pick up the phone and have a conversation, how do they engage you guys?
Yeah. You can visit us by going to our website, FOUR 15digital.com. There you can learn more about the services that we offer, some great client success stories and case studies, learn more about our culture, and then ultimately there's a form, contact us form. You fill that out and we'll be back in touch with you. And we're happy to do sort of an audit of your digital marketing programs free of charge for anybody that's interested in having another set of eyes.
Okay, awesome. Well, Borja, really appreciate you being on the show today. Thanks so much for coming and sharing your wisdom, and hope our audience also enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me, Brad. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for those of you that are watching and listening, hope you enjoyed the episode. Keep tuning in for episodes that we release every week. Love having you here, and keep in touch. We'll talk soon.
There is a Solution for That is produced by VARK Solutions. This episode was produced by Ashley White and Aaron Riley. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Watch the video version on youtube.com/There's a Solution for That. Or visit varcsolutions.com/podcast, where you'll find our entire podcast archive, as well as show notes, links to solution providers, and complete transcripts of every episode. If you love the podcast,
please leave a review with your comments.